Marfoogle TV going live in 3. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. We've got a lot to go over in a short amount of time, so I just want to remind you can go over to our website, and you can find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to talk about here today, that we have access to a full bibliography of all of our sources. So remember, that is down in the description, or you can go to marfooglenews.com. All right, now, of course, there's a lot to go into, so let's get right into it. So satellite images appear to show excavators and bulldozers at work at Iran's bombed-out nuclear site. Now, I've had my questions about whether, the damage is as extensive as they said it was. Obviously, right when you say something like that, people go, no, he said it was obliterated, it's obliterated. We don't know. I mean, I know that the U.S. would not tell us if they screwed up or if it didn't get down as far or if the thing wasn't obliterated, right? It would be a huge, huge hit to us. Now, of course, we know that the Ayatollah is totally full of crap when he says, oh, now we won, and it just looks so pathetic. It really almost does give credence to this rumor that the Ayatollah is already in hiding and that they've already taken over some sort of government control of it. But again, with this being said, there are now cleanup crews at these locations, and there's rumors that it's not as bad as they say. Now, a lot of the rumors is from out-of-context leaks coming from the Washington Post that are coming from random phone calls of two random people in Iran or officials stating that they were surprised and they don't know why the damage was not as extensive as they thought it would be. What kind of conversation would that be? Like, yeah, they really should have destroyed them, huh? I would think that it would be more along the lines of like, yeah, those imperialist pigs, didn't get down to our place and this and that. But they're talking about that? I don't know. It seems pretty set up too. At the same time, if that was the truth, that would also give us a reason to go back in. That would, the whole WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, nukes, go get them, boys. All right, we're going to talk about this and much, much more. And we have China practicing, and they're headed out there again in the Pacific. This is a practice for what I believe is going to be a battle with the U.S. in a very short amount of time. So we'll talk about that here in just a minute. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on? All right, let's get right back into it. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam. Hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So China says that aircraft carriers are conducting combat training in the Pacific. Well, I wonder what that's for, right? I've been seeing this for years. I believe that China is getting ready for their war with the U.S. I'm absolutely sure of it. I've talked to enough military members that have chatted about China and especially the year 2027. Right, 2027 has come up real quick. 5 years ago, people didn't care because they don't care if the can is kicked down the road. But now we're almost here, and now it is lined up even further. It is looking like it is absolutely accurately talked about as far as that's the year that they will be ready. I'm sure that this was based off of military contracts and how their estimates of when they would have stuff. But Dex, this is something that's very unnerving, especially with all of their Navy being the largest now, and the mass producing ships like no one has ever seen.
Exactly. So, and these aren't just two carriers. These are carrier groups. They treat them the same way as we do. So they have an entire formation for both of them. But this is the first time, I guess, that they're admitting and talking about what they've been doing in the Pacific, specifically conducting these combat drills. And they conducted joint combat systems training, as well as reconnaissance and early warning, anti-strike, sea assaults, air defense, and night flight training, according to the PLA. So, there were many times that we'd heard of the planes buzzing by other planes. We reported that too, coming off of these carriers, especially with Japan. Some of the maneuvers caused particular concerns with Japan because they complained about some of the operations and what they were doing. So very much a forward position from what they've been. These carriers have always been on the other side of the islands, on inside what you would think was the South China Sea or the Northern Sea there above it. In that area, they were never really going out of bounds, so to speak, beyond Japan, out of bounds beyond Taiwan, outside of maybe circling Taiwan. They never really went out into the Pacific very far, which could threaten Guam or other locations.
Yeah, this is because it is a different ocean. I mean, it's a different sea. You've got different conditions. They're practicing in the conditions that they will actually be fighting in. That's the thing. For them to do this really shows that they are looking, ahead, and they're trying to fight in the proper conditions. So this is something I think that is pretty obvious what they're doing. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and it also tests. It has to test their ability to go beyond shore, because these are not nuclear powered. They don't have nuclear powered aircraft carriers, so they have to run on fuel. So they have to bring the fuel with them. They have to bring it by boat, or they have to rely on the islands that they've partnered with throughout the area, just like the U.S. did, to refuel. And how far can they go, or how many stops can they make? It's something they've never done before. So they have to practice that to be able to get across the Pacific, just like we have to go, if you think about it, we go like San Diego down to Hawaii to Guam, Guam to Japan, or wherever, and probably other stops along the way if we need it, going north or south. And, we have the capability of running, for a long time because of our nuclear power, but even some of those support ships don't all have nuclear power. Some of them may still rely on gas, so they have to make stops. You got to make stops to, to resupply food for your troops, and you got to make stops to get rid of waste and other things, and bring on fresh water, etc.
So one of the other stories that we covered was how they were doing this. The actual logistics of this was a lot harder. This is why a lot of people felt secure in the United States for a long time, is because we were geographically safe. It was extremely hard for China to come over here, and especially with any kind of force. It's kind of like Dex and I both at separate times watched The Last Kingdom. Like the Vikings coming over, and half the ships in the rough seas, got totally crashed, and half the Vikings in history even, crashed in the rough seas. So you lost half of your guys. Well, in the same way, it would not be prudent for them to come all the way over here if half of their ships didn't make it, or half their ships got held back, or half their ships had problems, or ending up not making it. So this is a huge event for them to practice this kind of stuff, because they're actually doing it. I have a prediction that we will see Chinese carriers off of our coastline, and they'll say we're just doing drills, we're just doing this, and that will be the precipice. That will be the drill, and then a year after that, probably, that's when I think that they will actually get into a battle. I know this is, some people think that they'll never come and try to fight us, but I don't think they're fighting us alone. I think that they are going to fight us with Russia. I think that all of these different countries are going to combine. That is what is lined up. It is very, very obvious that all of these adversarial countries are working very closely together. There's going to be events that will set off, and then it will set off the rest of them. It will be like a domino, one after another, because the only way that you take the U.S. off of its pedestal is if you split up their military. So that's what I truly believe, that this is happening right now. It has been happening. It's something that is so easy to see. And I guess people have a lot of faith in our military, which I do too. But again, that's why they are looking at every way that our military is strong. They don't underestimate us. That is why they are teaming up with some of the folks that they've teamed up with. They don't even like. but they understand that they are a way to get what they want. China, the more you look into Chinese history, they're absolutely trying to come back from a humiliating a couple hundred years. I mean, like they have historically been a very, very strong nation or strong country, and they're one of the few that has really kept to itself this entire time, thousands of years. So I think that this is something that is long time coming, and I sure hope that we have a lot of things that they don't know about, because in that case, we will win. And then that we talked about this too, the idea of it, and now it is more confirmation. Women can be drafted into the Danish military as Russian aggression and military investment grows. So we've talked about this with many countries have not only floated the idea, including our own. The United States has floated drafting women. The draft is always right when you turn 18 now. They actually passed something that right when you are 18 in the United States, automatically as a man, you are enrolled. You used to have to go in, like I think I enrolled to be drafted when I was 19 or 20. The first time when I got my first car, I went into the DMV and they had me sign something and do it. But when, now when you turn 18, you're automatically enrolled to be drafted. We talked about how they were trying to fit into several bills, including the very big bloated one during CV 2019 thing. That one they tried to put in there quietly, that women would be added to the draft. And then, of course, the final one did not have it in it. And this has happened several times. They are trying to put this in the U.S. And I wonder if other countries keep doing this, if this is going to be more of a diverse thing, like everybody's like, hey, well, why can't we? Personally, I wouldn't want my 19-year-old daughter to be drafted, but that's looking like that may be something that could happen, right? Well, in the Danish world, that is exactly what's happening. It says, peering across a dense stretch of woodland outside of Denmark's capital with camouflage paint smeared across her face, 20-year-old Katrine scans the horizon for approaching threats. After nearly 4 months of military training, the young soldier and the rest of her unit spent early June completing their final exercises near the Danish Army's barracks in a vault. Katrine and other female soldiers, all of whom spoke to the Associated Press on June 11th on the condition that only their first names were used, volunteered for military service earlier this year. Until now, that was the only way women were allowed to partake in military service, although women have been able to enlist since the 1970s. The Scandinavian country is seeking to increase the number of young people in the military by extending compulsory enlistment to women for the first time. Men and women both still volunteer, and the remaining places will be filled by a gender-neutral draft lottery. So there's a lot of disagreement in this. I believe that there are a lot of positions that women are absolutely better than men for in the military in certain things. But a lot of people have a problem with them, going into groups like the Navy SEALs. They worry that, if somebody can't carry you out of the battlefield, then is it a hindrance or is it a help, right? Well, in this case, this is just showing you where the world is going. They obviously are preparing for something massive in Europe. You've seen every single country prepare for a war with Russia. Whether Russia wants it or not, it looks like they're going to get that war. And I think that this plays a part of a bigger plan and a bigger thing that is happening that they're lying to the civilians and to all of us about. Whether you're in Europe or the U.S. or Australia or Canada, they're lying to us about what is about to happen. You can see all of the writing on the wall, but again, it is something where it absolutely is not being truthful. By the way, thank you so much. Thank you, Bone Scores. This is Marvelous Magnus, high five. Hey, what's going on, Bone Score? Nice to see you. Milos Schaefer, Dex OH, and Marf IO, trying to include Dex in this. Milos, that is totally fine. Although, have you been to Ohio, Dex, ever?
Oh, yeah.
You have? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that Skyline chili.
Why that started is because I have a ton of family in Ohio, so I see I to OIO with all of you Ohio folks. And then God Soldier 56, thank you. I think I was meant to be born in Ohio, but I wasn't. I ended up instead in Washington and Seattle. But again, you know how they say, oh, I don't feel like myself in this body. I don't feel like myself in this state, but again, that's just me. Can I transition? I guess I can, yeah. But it costs a lot of money and you have to move away from everybody you know. And there's no other states that are really cheaper anymore, which is really sad. But before we move on, make sure to go over and check out marfooglenews.com. Again, you can also go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and get one of the best devices to protect yourself against an EMP. This is, again, a device that will protect not only your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators. They also have the new devices for modems and even Starlinks. So this is the same company that's outfitting agencies like U.S. Air Force, FBI, DHS, DOD. Again, they're all doing it quietly. We should be doing it loudly. Again, marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF, and you'll get $50 off per device. And, of course, that stacks on top of any sale that they're doing. So go check it out. Again, this will be easily wired into your car in less than 10 minutes. It's going to ground the signal from an EMP strike or multiple EMP strikes or a Carrington level event from the sun in less than 500 trillionths of a second. This is, again, a surge protector on crack and then sent to the moon. So, again, go check it out. Go look at the Keystone military testing. Go look at who they're working with. You'll see exactly what I mean. What's sad is that this is not required on all cars, that it's not code in houses, because if it was, I don't think we would have a problem if somebody did try to EMP us, which is one of the most, in my mind, as far as any attack that could happen to us, that would be the most probable out of anything. All right, and then Ukraine loses an F-16 fighter amid action. Dex, do you want to go over that?
Yeah, massive launch. Russia launched 537 drones and missiles into Ukraine overnight into Sunday morning, according to the Ukrainian Air Force, and a Ukraine F-16 fighter jet and its pilot were also lost during the efforts to repel the attack, according to Ukraine. So they wrote on the update that 477 drones and 60 missiles at targets they had launched that many across the country. The attack was one of, if not the largest of the war to date. In Poland, which borders Ukraine there to the west, the Armed Forces Operational Command said in a post on X that Russian strikes prompted the Polish and Allied aircraft to actually be scrambled. That's how much was launched at once. And obviously going nearby the borders, a lot of times there's even places there where they even for a few seconds actually cross the border in a straight line trying to get to southern locations in Ukraine, which has been a sort of a sticky issue as to whether or not Poland should shoot those down, which would totally change things. But the command said it activated all available forces and resources at its disposal. The duty fighter pairs have been scrambled, and ground-based air defense and radar reconnaissance systems have reached the highest state of readiness. The steps taken to aim ensuring security in the areas bordering the threatened areas there in Poland. So, yeah, lots happening this weekend, Sunday and yesterday and the day before, with the escalation. And it doesn't seem like any of this is headed towards, let's get back to peace talks. It's like, let's make the largest strikes ever. And I think we're seeing Putin continue to react to that deep hit that took out a lot of his long-range planes there and nuclear strike planes.
Nobody's even talking about peace anymore. Like, there's not anything about it. I mean, people, and here's the thing. Last week or the week before, everybody was really scared about World War III, especially with the 12-day war between Iran and Israel, right? The second that they say out loud through official channels, oh, we brokered a peace deal, it's all good. Everybody then goes back to, see, nothing happened, it's all fine. It's not fine. If you talk to any military member, they realize how fragile not only Iran and Israel are, but how this has continued. People 3 years ago cared about this a lot, and it was because the media, the administration, everybody said that this was, it wasn't a fight for Ukraine, it was a fight for all of Europe, right? They framed it exactly how it is, which is, they framed it as this whole event that was going to go down, and that it wasn't just going to be Ukraine, it was going to be Ukraine and then all of the Baltic states, and Russia was going to be going into all of Europe and taking all of it back. Well, again, whether you believe that or not, this is what they're pushing for. And this is what's about to happen. You're going to have U.S. and China and then all of these other parties all teaming up to be in this next world war. And again, it's already set in stone, in my opinion. So with Russia and Ukraine, it's crazy to see how little people actually care about it. I mean, it honestly is. It's just a flaming turd, in my opinion, with all the money we sent over there and everything else. If they were transparent and said, hey, we're actually over there because we're going to get trillions of dollars and it will help the U.S. and the resources and we're going to have a puppet in and all that, I'm sure people would actually probably respond better to that. I always wonder, like, what if they just started going with the policy of just telling us the absolute truth, like only us though, like any secret that was in the U.S., we all knew about it. Like all the civilians, everybody, the government told you exactly what it was doing because you were a part of it, I always wondered, what would a world be like that? What would a country be like that? Dex, go ahead.
Well, you kind of have to ask yourself, like, what is Putin's goal at this point? He's reclaimed a lot of land in the territory that he wants. Obviously, he's not giving up Crimea. That's off the table at this point. How much more does he need? What is his actual objective? And I don't know, just by looking at it, that it really is, let's grab another 5 miles. Is it another 20 miles? Is it, this other section here? Or is it just to continue fighting the West and continuing to learn? Because it seems like this is just happening over and over again. There's not massive gains left or right on the border lines there as to who's winning. There's been a little here where Ukraine got into Russia's territory, but they eventually got them out. Russia got in some area and it pushed back a little. But then they came in strong again. But it's not like they've taken over half of Ukraine. And he even said his goal wasn't that much. It was supposed to just be these territories. So I sort of question, okay, well, if it's not how much land does he need and when does he stop, then what's the actual goal? And is he learning enough or feels like he can continue to go through this extensive attrition of a war to gain more knowledge against the West? In preparation for what he feels is the eventual, escalation of Europe versus Russia. Is that what he's doing? Or what else could be happening here? Because at some point he's got to realize, okay, this is about as far as we were going to go, and now's the time to stop. Or what are we doing? Like, what are we just wasting our money, time, effort, people, resources, economy, sanctions, all of that for an extra 100 yards?
Nick says, wake up. They want everyone thinking World War is going to happen. Well, I believe that every other week that they make you believe that it's going to happen right this second. But I do believe it's going to happen because the World War, you have to understand that it will change the structure of the world. We know that the U.S. has a lot of problems. And who knows that there's people putting a lot of faith that maybe we might be able to actually save ourselves, right? People are looking at the national debt. We're looking at a debt-based society. I mean, everything we are all about. From the time you get out of high school, then you go to college, you have debt there, then you get a credit card and you get a credit score by getting credit cards, and then you're using this whole debt-based system. Your income and my taxes your income. I mean, like, it's crazy that the money is all floated around as much as it is, and this system can't go forever. We are trillions and trillions and trillions in debt. No matter how much fraud that we find, there's always going to be a huge big bill around the corner that's going to do something bigger. This war, I believe, is a part of a bigger plan, and people won't believe it until they see it. There's also using something that is coming. If there was a steamroller coming your way and you're in a tight hallway and you're seeing it coming for an hour and you have nowhere to go, yeah, you'd probably sit there screaming the whole time, right? Well, in this case, I believe it's something like they know that it's there, so they use it against you. They use it to scare you, and they can manipulate people with fear. Fear manipulates people. The thing is most people are scared every other week. But all of the people that are looking at this, we know World War is coming, but we understand why. There's a purpose. Once you understand there's a purpose to this and what it is about to do to the world, it is to basically reset the entire system. You cannot reset without some sort of breakage. You can't build a house, you can't rebuild a house without breaking it down. So this is something I think is really hard to grasp because we are getting so many conflicting messages, even from our peers. Like, people don't know what to think. But I do believe that, everybody, there's a whole camp of people that want to convince you that World War III is not going to happen and that everybody's a fearmonger. But again, that is something where, what is the harm of preparing as if it was? Again, you don't want to sell your house and spend every last dollar in your 401k on pallets of food, but you definitely want a plan, and you need a basic plan. That basic plan for World War III will be more than enough if there's a local storm, tornado, hurricane, whatever else. So again, it does not hurt people. That's what I don't get, is if it doesn't hurt people, why are people so adamant to say nothing's ever going to happen? We know from history that they said the same thing before World War II. They said the same thing during World War II. They said this isn't a world war. We, of course, look back and you see how many died. You look at how many places were fighting, how many countries aligned, and we have more aligned today than we ever have before. So it is incredible to think that people don't think that this is going to be a World War III. But it's also incredible that people don't realize, yes, they do use it against you. They use it to manipulate you. When you're afraid, you make stupid decisions. Heck, if you are, look at how many stupid decisions were made in the 45 minutes when Hawaii did their false missile alert. People were dropping their babies in the damn sewers. What were they thinking? Like, the nuclear weapon was, they think they were going to mutate and be a Ninja Turtle when they were done with it? Like, people didn't think, right? They were so afraid they could not think and make a logical response, which, by the way, was hold your baby for 35, 40 minutes before you perish. I wouldn't want to survive. Why would the baby want to survive, after a nuke hit by itself? Because they didn't go down. They couldn't fit. It's like, what were you thinking? People don't think when they're afraid. And what is better is when people are really afraid and somebody else walks up and go, hey, I've got the solution. The snake oil salesman comes up and goes, hey, I've got this. Then people follow it. The thing is you don't want, they're telling you, hey, you need to do this. You need to do that. The world is going to be better. We need a Patriot Act. We need to monitor everybody online. We need to have a data file on all of you, and it's going to make you safer. This is the kind of BS that happens every time there's a war. Every time there's a major event, every time there's a major attack, it's something that's going to happen over and over and over again, and people are never going to learn. Because people don't, I think that most people don't like history or something. But history shows you that human beings are going to do what human beings do. They do the same thing over and over and over again because we're not that smart. We basically look at all the movies. Movies are copies. Any creative mind is just basically taking something from somebody else. The same with war planning. They're war planning. They're human beings at work planning a war. What are they going to do? They're going to go, well, we did this in 1938. We did this in 2001. That's why a lot of the stuff that's happening with these CIA agents and people going over to the Middle East, all of this a month or 2 months before all of this happened, you think it's a coincidence that 72 planes with CIA agents went over to the Middle East, that they parked the B-2s over at Diego Garcia a long time ago? Do you think this was all a coincidence and then Iran and Israel went to war? Do you think it was a coincidence that Syria was being bombed simultaneously when just this organic revolution happened in Syria? All of this stuff is ops by the U.S. And it's really simple to see once you follow it every single day. Peter Thiel warns one world of a greater threat than AI or climate change. That's actually, I'm kind of surprised by this. And again, this all fits. It's funny the timing of some of the stories, like as we talk about this, and that this is the end up goal. Look at how it comes out. This is because this author's looking at what's going on, and I believe he's thinking the same thing I am. And he's having the conversation in his head, and he goes, "This is what they're doing." Dex, do you want to go over what Peter Thiel said?
Yes, certainly. It was in an interview. He was talking about how, as you just said, that one world governance is basically a greater risk than others. He goes, the default political solution people have for all these existential risks is one world government. He's talking about all the different things that are happening around the world right now. Deal observed, pointing to the proposals for strengthening the United Nations, to controlling nuclear arsenals, global computing governance, to regulating AI development, including measures to log every single keystroke and prevent dangerous programming. Such solutions, the investor warned, risk creating a surveillance state that sacrifices individual liberty for security. Don't forget, this is the guy who co-founded Palantir, which Palantir is the one being used now to create the database of all the Americans, as the politicians are telling us, is coming out of the plan with the federal government right now. So he's the one warning us of creating a surveillance state that sacrifices individual liberty for security. But drawing on historical and philosophical analogies, the reference from 1940s Federation of American Scientists film One World or None, which argued that only global governments could prevent nuclear annihilation. Deal juxtaposed this with a Christian theological framing of the Antichrist or Armageddon. He goes, in both, the billionaire says he sees a binary choice between central control and catastrophic collapse. In other words, he's basically saying that that if we continue down the path, and they keep painting the picture is the problem is the world is a mess, whatever mess you want to insert here. The solution is a unified system that will solve that. And that unified system can be taken at the unified level in a federal government, all the way up to the unified level at, say, the global government and global governance, whether it's the UN, et cetera. Insert your larger body of control here that then takes in and creates solutions to the chaotic problem. So you have this binary choice, bad and good, and the only thing good is the one world solution.
Yeah, he sees a binary choice between centralized control and a catastrophic collapse. So do you have everybody on the same page, or do you have catastrophic collapse? And I think for them to get to the point where everybody is going to agree to this, there has to be horrible events where somebody's thrown a rope down to you and go, hey, I can give you the rope, but you have to agree that everybody's going to be under these same rules, okay? Otherwise, you can stay in the hole and I'll just leave you here. Okay, you're good with one world? Okay, all right, I'm going to throw you a rope. Okay, but you have to pay more taxes, and the taxes goes towards the W and the O, right? Okay, all right, cool, you do? Okay, then you can come with us then. We'll throw a rope down. That's just an analogy, but I think it's honestly what's happening, and it's the same ploy over and over again. But this is something different because, you have wars that are used to further different parties. I mean, when it really comes down to it, what's really crazy is entire wars really baked up to the very top were a few families. Like the Rockefellers, they funded multiple wars, and they funded both sides. They gave cannons to these guys and cannons to these guys. They armed them both. They didn't care who won. They cared about the agreements and the negotiations afterwards, and consolidating power into less and less hands. I mean, that's what the corporations and the corporate world is, literally that. If you look at Boeing right now, go look at Boeing and the companies it's absorbed. Look at Northrop Grumman, look at Raytheon, look at all of these companies. Every last one of them has absorbed every smaller company there is. Every telecom company, Comcast, just gobbled up all of the smaller ones. You just keep having these small, innovative people. You have the system where people can innovate and make this new system, but what ends up happening? They're offered more than what it's worth for it to be gobbled up by a big mega behemoth, and then it all gets considered up to this. Well, that mega behemoth is absolutely tied to a very few families up above. And to the average person that doesn't follow this or doesn't have kind of a critical mind that's asking questions about everything, they frankly, there's a lot of people that are just kind of drones. They don't ask why we believe this, right? They also don't believe oh yeah, there's only a few families and they're in charge of everything. Oh, sure. But when you do your research on any of these companies, the biggest ones that have more money than multiple countries combined, they are just, the power goes up to just a very, very few hands. And those very few hands have the idea that they are God. They think they are God. Or they think that they are hands of, that God. I think that a lot of them are working with that God. But again, that's more crazy than anything. But I think it's crazy not to realize how everything is connected. And it really is. It's insane to see how all of these events. I mean, who wasn't surprised that BlackRock was buying all this property up in Ukraine? Who wasn't surprised that BlackRock's also part of the canal, right? Who's surprised about any of this? It all is really coming down to backdoor deals between the extremely rich. So I think it's kind of funny, though, too, how the politicians now are saying, oh, the billionaires don't pay their taxes and whatever else. They don't pay their taxes. Those politicians, they buy $12,000 dresses to wear on Wednesday to Congress. And they're, oh, you guys are too rich. No, they're just jealous that they're not that rich. And they're seizing their opportunity to try to line themselves up so they can get in that spot and do the dirty deals. All these people are absolutely nasty. I don't know if it's worse. I mean, they say, he says specifically worse than AI or climate. Yeah, I would fear that more than both of those two. Stephanie Cook, thanks Adam and Dex and Mods. Hey, thank you, Stephanie Cook, and thank you for supporting Independent. Wes Rowley, alleged sniper, accused of setting Idaho fire before perishing to firefighters, ID'd in eerie photo. Dex, this is creepy. Do you want to go over this?
Yeah, this happened right up there in Coeur d'Alene, in I guess a mountain area there. Yeah, this guy allegedly, I guess, decided to start a fire and then use that as the means to draw in firefighters and do something to him. So they've identified him. He was 20-year-old Wes Rowley. And they have a photo of him now, and I'm sure more information will start coming out about him. It's a pretty horrific type of event that went down, in that area up in near Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is not, I guess, far. It's next to your state, right, Adam? They're right there on the border of Washington.
Yep. To our right, towards New York. So, yeah, with Idaho, also, that Idaho, I just heard somebody say this. Idaho is actually one of the very, very few states where weed is still illegal, or they don't have any system for it. Like out of all the, I didn't realize the entire country has virtually legalized it or decriminalized it, but Idaho wasn't. And there was another story that came out 3 or 4 days ago about Idaho and their history with weed. But honestly, you don't hear much come out of Idaho at all, do you? I mean, you don't see crazy stuff like this come out of Idaho. Surprisingly, you do see it out of Ohio and some of the Midwest states. But Idaho, how many stories have we covered in Idaho? Not much. Randy Man, always Whitey. Let's see here. Candy, Meerkat, Julius is psychedelics needs to be legal, not chronic. Well, I think people got to be careful. I got an uncle that's a bit fried permanently. And he's awesome. He's my favorite uncle. He's a friend now. But yeah, he did too much of the certain stuff back in the day, and it definitely changed his life. So in everything in moderation. But again, I have friends that actually have done micro dosing, and they believe in it wholeheartedly. And these friends are successful business people, so it's kind of surprising. That media lightened his skin tone. And I don't know what the original, I don't know what he looks like in any other pictures. Let's see here. Justin Winch, nice to see you. Kevin Kennedy, TMI. Let's see here. CR user on age regressed and beard gone. That's Bin Laden, yeah. Hey, Adam. Crystal Pool, nice to see you. Nat Tate. Shrooms have a use, they say. There's a lot of, Yeah, there's a lot of studies. Go look at some of the studies with the microdosing stuff. Ilea both. No, the first one. And then Wilson, yeah, it perished, right? Wait, did he perish in this? Dex, or is he in jail?
Oh yeah, he's gone.
Wow. So
interesting. They show a picture. I found another news article. They show a picture with his parents and split screen, and they have on, of course, MAGA hats. They had to get that picture in there.
Of course they did. But when a gentleman rolls over people at a parade, it's Ford Explorer takes 12 lives. Yeah. Okay. I'm surprised Ford didn't sue all the media for that one. And then before we talk about Iran may go after U.S. defense firms with cyber attacks, and this seems like a setup in itself, I do want to remind you, if you don't have food around the house, again, if you don't have long-term storage food, then I would highly recommend going to My Patriot Supply. The reason why we believe this is one of the most affordable budget freeze-dried foods that you can get. And again, what you get out of this, no matter what package, whether it's the 72-hour kit or the 3-month kit, the thing with this company is the bigger the bulk you go, the better deal you get. And again, with something like that, I would definitely recommend if you're trying to get 6 months to 9 months of food, which is what is recommended, you will quickly find out how freaking much that is. Go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. Again, they not only have freeze-dried food that will last 25 years, but they also have all sorts of other stuff as well. It is definitely a very, very smart thing to have on hand. And again, it's going to take up very little space compared to many other things, again, as far as, canned foods and hard foods like that. So again, marfooglenews.com/prep. All right. And then Vira, Space Troll, William H., and Stephen McMahon. It is super, super awesome to see so many awesome faces in here. Stephanie Cook and Jan T., thank you for gifting out 5 badges to the rest of the Foogle fam. Thank you guys for supporting independent. Again, thank you, Ilea, for modding. Bobby Sue, I think, is in the house. And then, of course, Jammer and Chance. And, of course, everyone else in the mods crew. Make sure to support them as well. marfooglenews.com/friends. So we just talked about this briefly over on the news video, but so this is the thing. With this, you don't know what's truth or not, but there has been a back-channeled kind of, there is a pattern here. They've told us about the secret devices in our grid from China. They've told us about sleeper cells in the U.S. They've told us about all this. And, of course, our community, you're going to have people going, well, they're just trying to scare us, and this is all, a psyop or this or that. Well, there's real and there's psyop, and there's a mix, and then there's, the truth. The truth is always different than what the media says and always different than what our community says. It's usually somewhere in between. But as far as this goes, there are too many arrows pointing towards a massive cyber event. I mean, first of all, it is what any adversary, it is what any group, it is what any, group that would like to do us harm would do. Because our world is absolutely dependent on everything. If you have gone without power for a few days, then you know exactly why we think that the grid would be gone after. If you have gone without internet and cell phone, as you might not want to admit it, there's a lot of people here that will go, oh, if the internet goes off, I'm happy. But again, if you have a family or, most likely it's pretty annoying. I mean, we are all, now dependent on internet, and people, if they don't want to say they are, or if they actually live off grid, then more pride to you. Like, I really do respect that. And I think that you are going to be better off than a lot of other people. But as far as the rest of us, a lot of people are absolutely dependent. They can't do anything. The younger crowd, holy moly. Man, if China did some sort of bio thing that took out everybody over 25, this country would be down in a second. Dex, think about if the 25 and under crowd, and no offense if there's a couple of you out there, maybe you grew up different. Could you imagine these 24-year-olds that don't know how to pump gas, they don't know what a corded telephone is? Could you imagine them losing internet and cell phone all at once for permanently?
I mean, that would probably create and chaos in the streets.
Now, the DoD again is saying that they are worried about, of course, cybersecurity and infrastructure for the actual defense systems going down. So could this be a Fantastic Freddy? Could it be a reason if they have a massive event, it causes some sort of damage? It is obviously going to be a big deal. I think something like this, if it was a Fantastic Freddy, if it was set up to give them a reason to attack Iran, that it would be a big thing. Or if they actually do something, there's a lot in our community that doubt that they can actually do this. I see a very, kind of odd opinion that Iran is just this backcountry country and they have nothing. They have a cyber team. They say that, I've heard people say that there's not much going on and there's not any cyber attacks happening now. There's cyber attacks to every state. We've talked to sheriffs of a couple of these states that have, actually wrote us letters about how many times they're getting hacked. They said that on a daily basis that they're getting hacked by Iran, they're hacked by China, they're hacked by this. And luckily, they are actually stopping it in its tracks, that they have good IT and that they have good firewalls, right? But they are stopping all of these attacks on our water infrastructure, on our power grid, on all of these things. Not to mention, civilians are not told what the DOE is. The Department of Energy is, having all of these secret reports of all of these events happening to our grid, but they're not telling us, which I think is really, really disgusting. I think at the very least we should know about that. Why don't they tell us about all the attacks on the grid? Why doesn't the news cover that, but they will cover any little thing? If somebody does a typo on a tweet, they cover that for a day, but they don't cover attacks on our grid, which is still vulnerable, still archaic, and still aging. Doesn't make sense. If they go after the defense industrial base, they could literally take down some serious stuff. And I wonder if something like this happened, Dex, if this happened in real life, if they went for the right systems, maybe they got in through solar winds, or they got in through backdoors, through other things that they sold to the U.S., grid or whatever. If they did this, I bet it would be a part of a bigger thing. They would try to go into the defense systems. Somebody says, China would be wiped out in a second. Somebody earlier said, there's mutually assured destruction. If they try to nuke us, we nuke them, and then that they're wiped out. Not necessarily. Also, if they don't nuke us, if they can take our carriers out, if they can take our power out, they can take our internet out, they can take our satellites out, they can take our stealth jets out, which they can now track according to them, right? We don't know if it's true. If they can do all of these things, they say, then we can't just nuke them if they haven't nuked us.
Imagine if the powers that be decide to take out TikTok and Snapchat and all the fun tools that the younger generation uses, and then blames Iran on it. Who can prove that was true or not, right? Who can prove when it comes to cyber? That's the one thing, it's like, how do you prove, you can easily blame someone else for it, and the people that can control it can lie the path and make it look exactly how they want it to look. And if it's wanting to be done in a Fantastic Freddy style, it's the ultimate one that can be done that way, if that makes sense.
They can contact somebody in Iran, give them the key to our back door, and have them do it so it tracks back to actual Iran. They could fake the path too. They can just
do it themselves and make it back to them. They don't even have to give them keys. They could just do it and make the tracks back to them. It's very easy to set it up, especially when you control it, your CISA or whoever. Not saying they're the ones that are going to do it, but it is very plausible in the digital world for that to happen. And I think when you do something like that, it's you got to think about why. Like, why would you do it, or who would you do it to, and what are you trying to gain support for something? Is it, I remember back in the days of WMD, it was all about putting those satellite images and saying how important these are, and look, this is the bad, evil thing, right? And it turns out it was nothing after the fact, but it got everybody ramped up, got everybody riled up, and it was, so where do you got to get that support from, and how do you need it? And cyber can definitely do it. It doesn't have to take out the whole country. It can take out certain things that can just really irritate some groups of people, and it can take it out for a long time.
Yeah, you have most of the young people with TikTok that are supporting Iran, mainly because they essentially the message on TikTok is anti-Israel. 95% of the stuff you see on there is. You then take TikTok and Snapchat out, their communications. Like my aunt just told me, she's like, I cannot get a hold of your 19-year-old daughter. And she goes, but I can. If I get on Snapchat, I get a hold of her right away. It's like, why can't she answer a call or a text at all? But if you send her a DM on Snapchat, she'll get right back to you. It's like, if you take those two out, say Iran did it, you might just turn that around, and then all of a sudden the youth will be absolutely anti-Iran. Who knows? But good point. I hope that is all that happens, right? Personally, I played with the filters about 10 years ago with Snapchat, and it got old in about 5 minutes. I had no idea that the youth would just go for it forever. Like, it's just the new system. People don't, that people don't ask for phone numbers anymore. If a guy goes to a girl, they go, oh, can I get your phone number? They go, oh, can I give you my Snap? Or can they do Snapchat for dating? Like, I just think that's so weird.
And the whole streak thing, that drives me nuts when I hear the young kids tell me, oh, she must not like me anymore. She ruined our streak. And I'm like, what? What is that? I mean, I know what it is, but I'm like, why is that so important? Because, oh no, it's very important. If someone breaks your streak, that's, like the end of, that's like, crossing a line. Like, you don't do that. I'm like, oh, geez.
My 19-year-old did not block her ex-boyfriend because they had a streak going and they had all these points. And I was like, why? She said something like he was looking at her profile or friending somebody. I'm like, well, get rid of him, block him. But then our streak would be ruined. I'm like, what in the world? But what does that say? Our youth have been trained the likes. Why do you think everybody wants to be a YouTuber? You see all these, every once in a while in shorts, you'll see youngins that are on it, or even just people, and they're like, hey, if I could just get 5 more likes or this or that. It's like it's a dopamine rush when they get people that view it or to see it. And it's something that has turned into like crack cocaine for youth. And you can see it. I mean, it's how they act. I told you guys this years ago. When she was younger, she was the worst. When she was 12, she could not be more than 5 feet away. She's gotten so much better. I'm very proud of her. She got so much better, but she could not be away from a plug-in. Do you remember that, Dex? Like 7 years ago, she could not be more than a couple feet away from a freaking plug-in. If the phone was down to like 3 or 10%, it was panic mode. It was like, that's something that my other 3 kids really don't have a problem with, and I'm very glad. But yeah, it's something that all of you guys know about. If you have teenagers or young people in your home, then you know. That again, Itchy Ender, thank you for gifting 10 badges. MH, thank you for joining the fam. Says, I'm an Okie, but love the way you say Ohio. Yeah, well, I've got a whole chunk of family that says a lot of things funny, like cement, and artichoke. Artichoke is the best. And then I've got my Washington family that says Washington and washing machines. It's a problem. All right, you guys. Dex, thank you so much for your service tonight. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And again, thank you guys for joining us. Make sure to join us tomorrow night for the rest of the news. Again, we will see you around the same time. If you guys want to join us for the shoutro, it's not an outro, it's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. I'll be saying thank you to the people that supported tonight. Thank you from Roots to Radicals. INTP says the MSM doesn't talk about these things because they are not here to tell us the news. They're here to tell people how to think. Been this way a long time. I agree with that 1000%. It might not be to tell you the lie. It might be tell you the truth with their spin. If you're in the chat, you'll be ported right over.